Hello and welcome to episode 261 of the Clean Energy Show. I'm Brian Stockton.
I'm Jamie Swinningham. This week, there's a new stat out that says Denmark has the highest share of their electricity mix being wind and solar. But what shocked me was number 2, the Republic of Djibouti on the Horn of Africa. Brian, we're going to take a deep dive into Djibouti to see what's going on in there.
Oh, I cannot wait. Some Amish communities have begun switching to electric bikes. That's right, the Amish are now more progressive than your crazy Uncle Marvin.
Who knew? The Clean Energy Show Air Quality Project has taken on a new dimension. We've gone inside the house. Sometimes, Brian, it really is coming from inside the house, especially on Taco Tuesday.
The UK is taking a long look at balcony solar. What is common in countries like Germany is not currently allowed under UK safety rules. Sure, they're all about safety when it comes to electricity, and yet they let everyone drive on the wrong side of the road.
All that and more on this edition of the Clean Energy Show. Wow, what a packed show this week. We took a week off, and of course, we've accumulated all kinds of things. So we'll have to keep going at a brisk pace here. Brian, I had 2 power dips last night. That means the power went out for a quarter of a second or something like that.
Yeah.
Twice, an hour apart. So it took me an hour to fix everything, get the router up and run, reboot that twice or so on.
Yeah.
And get all my smart things working again. And my smart thing that controls the television is not working. So it may be toast. And then it goes out as soon as I get everything fixed again. And there's no weather, there's no wind, there's no storms, there's no nothing, there's no heat wave.
Yeah. Well, you always get warned about a power surge that, be careful, like there's going to be a power surge and it will burn out your television or something. And I've never had anything like that, but we do get these power bumps where it just kind of flickers for a second.
Well, it's annoying as heck. So I finally saw an electric bus in Regina, where we were starting to get electric buses here in Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
And I was driving with my daughter. She spotted it, and I chased it. And it was on Albert Street, their main street of the city, where the speed limit is 30 miles an hour, 50 kilometers an hour, something like that, 35, 50. It was going 67.
What?
I gave up the chase. It was like a police chase where you had to give up because the speeds were too excessive. And I don't know what was up with that, but the first time I saw this mythical creature, it was also going fast on the same street in a different direction. And I don't know if these old guys driving the buses are just not accustomed to the electric buses or not, but they're going because it's not making any noise. They're not getting noise feedback. They're just touching the pedal and whoop, they're gone.
Yeah.
And I also yesterday was driving home and there was this pickup truck, which is common in our city and more common than not common. So everyone drives them, whether they need to or not. And there was a pickup truck to the right of me, and it needed to get in front of me in my lane to turn left at the next light. And it just got there instantly. And I thought, well, that seems like an electric vehicle.
Yeah.
And I looked and it said GMC Sierra. And I thought, well, those aren't out yet. But they are. That was, in fact, an electric vehicle. That, a pickup. I've never seen a pickup truck. They're driven aggressively here all the time, but I've never seen one do that. It's like you pick a spot on the road ahead in the lane you want, and you touch the pedal. That's how some people describe it, and you appear there.
Yeah.
You're transported there in an electric car. Well, that's what he did. And sure enough, when I got behind him at the light, it was a GMC Sierra EV. So another electric pickup truck on the roads of our agricultural city here. Very cool. And you remember how that garbage company was posting about the combustion cars blowing up, right? Because I had a truck blow up within range of me here, and it scared the daylights out of me because it was a very loud explosion, a big ball of fire and gassy flames for a long time, and whole neighborhood came to look a few weeks ago. And I was noticing through their feed that they have a lot of, like that same day, my daughter said, hey, there's another one an hour later in Regina, where we live, a small city of 250,000, and another one's on fire that they have on their feed, their social media feed. This is a bin garbage company, bin waste disposal joint that's decided to get into social media, and it's really taken off, and people are getting their news from them now.
Yeah.
Well, they posted, and this was on our Patreon page, a sort of a little meme, and he said, I had no idea there were so many vehicle fires until we started posting them in our stories. And then they had a Wayne Knight from Seinfeld driving in the postal truck on fire and screaming. Mm-hmm. And then at the bottom on the replies, he said, and no, we have yet to see a single EV fire sent in. They've all been gas and diesel, so they get it.
Yeah. And no
It's
doubt,
a controversial organization, but they get it.
and no doubt people were commenting, oh, I bet that's an EV or something like that.
I didn't bother. Didn't bother, but yeah.
Yeah. No. I mean, do not read the comments, whatever you do.
So you got back from how long in the United Kingdom? 10 days?
So yeah, I just got back from a trip to the UK. It was about a 10-day trip, so 7 or 8 days or so in London. And it was fabulous. I was just there like 2 or 3 years ago, and we talked quite a bit about London. And we have talked quite a bit about London over the years in terms of the clean energy revolution. I wanted to recap the Elizabeth line. This is their newest transit line, train line in London, just because it's so fantastic. It's just crazy how good it is. You can get from Heathrow Airport to downtown London in 20 minutes on the Heathrow Express. It's absolutely fabulous. And these are new trains. They're large and comfortable and, comfortable seats and everything. The trains are incredibly long. Like they had to build very long platforms for these trains. So they have huge capacity. And at some of the stops, because some of the stops they're using existing train platforms that were, already built. For some of those, the trains are too big and it'll say, this car does not open at such and such station. You have to move ahead to, car number 6 or whatever, because some of the platforms are too, whatever.
Short.
Yeah, it's absolutely fabulous. And it just sort of goes to show you how when you've got good transit, that's almost always the best option. Like you don't want to take a car if you've got a good transit line. So my partner had to go out to Brentwood, which is quite far out into the suburbs, but it's on the Elizabeth line. So we were staying near Paddington Station. We took it from Heathrow to Paddington, and it was really far. Like it's still about an hour trip. But on the Elizabeth line, it's like, well, this is a no-brainer. Like doing it any other way would just be crazy, like taking a car or something, a taxi, an Uber, So it's a little bit long, but you're going a very long distance. And, when the transit is good, you don't want to take anything else. Now, there's also the Central line, which is really old and decrepit. And the trains are very old. There's no air conditioning on them.
Ooh.
And as we talked about before I went, there was a heat wave in London. So it hit 33 Celsius one day when I was there. That's about 92 Fahrenheit.
Was that a moist 33?
Didn't feel particularly moist. They're going through a drought as well in London. 10 out of the last 12 months are below normal precipitation. So, the last couple of summers have been very dry in London. But yeah, 33 Celsius, you don't want to be on the Central line because the trains don't have air conditioning. They're very old. The older tunnels are quite small. They're sort of too small because they were built, 100 years ago. So I went to the Design Museum when I was there, and they had a wonderful exhibit about the new trains that they're designing for the older subway lines. On the Elizabeth line, they could start from scratch. So the trains are just bigger. The tunnels are bigger. But for those older tunnels, they're just really thinking hard about how to make a better train fit into that same size tunnel, because there's no way they're going to redig all of those tunnels. It would just be impossible. But for the time being, a lot of the trains are quite old and no air conditioning, which is, brutal. It's definitely humid down there on the Central line. But yeah, in London in general, didn't feel humid. The weather was gorgeous the whole time. It did rain twice briefly, but it's dry. Like we walked through Hyde Park a couple of times, and the grass is all brown, and there's some yellow leaves on the trees. Like they're just not getting enough moisture. And, they don't have sprinklers, right? Like we just walked through our city park this morning and the grass is wonderfully green. Well, that's because they water it like pretty much every single day. But in London, I don't think they ever set that up because they didn't expect it to, to be so dry. So still lovely. Like overall, the trees were green, but, you could see the yellow leaves starting to form on some of them.
Is that right? So your spousal unit has family in the UK, right? So that's part of the reason why you visit on a regular basis.
Exactly. And yeah, they were out in Brentwood, which is basically at the far end of the Elizabeth line.
I see.
But yeah, saw lots of electric vehicles, like definitely an increase from the last time I was there. The thing I noticed this time was the black cabs. And I think we talked about this on the show a couple of years ago when there was an initiative where they were trying to electrify the iconic black cabs in London. And so there's a Transport for London website. So I'm going to talk about a few things here from their website that led them to, trying to electrify these black cabs. Figures from 2019 show taxis were responsible for 29% of the noxious emissions from central London road transport. 29%, because it's just a very common thing in downtown London. It's just half the cars practically are black cabs. Like that's
now these aren't Toyota Corollas either. These are big vehicles, right? Are they kind of chuggy and fuel inefficient?
Yeah, they're custom built. They all look the same, whether they're gas powered or electric, and some of them are plug-in hybrids as well. So what they're up to now is they say 50% of the black cabs have a plug, but some of them are plug-in hybrids. But you would often see them driving past you, and you would hear no sound coming from a lot of them. And you're like, oh, that's an electric one. Some of them had it written on the side that this is an electric one. So this was an initiative they started back in 2018. All new taxis licensed for the first time have to be zero emission capable. ZEC is the term that they often use, zero emission capable, meaning plug-in hybrids are allowed in that. And providing taxi delicensing grants to drivers, which removed more than 4,000 older, more polluting vehicles from the fleet. So they were offering grants to get the old ones off the roads. Further measures to reduce the emissions from the taxi fleet were by phasing out the diesel taxis and increasing the number of ZEC vehicles in London, including reducing the maximum age of the most polluting taxis from 15 down to 12 years between 20 and 2022, and bringing in discounts and incentives to help those drivers transition to new vehicles. This included helping to fund the plug-in vehicle grant, offering drivers up to £7,500, which is quite a lot of money when you convert it to Canadian dollars, 15,000 Canadian dollars, maybe 10 US, to help them get a new taxi. But yeah, getting those older ones off the roads quicker is a part of all this.
Well, I was just thinking that gas vehicles, diesel vehicles, and even hybrids get less fuel efficient and more polluting as they get old.
Yeah.
So that would help do that. And I was also thinking that my Nissan Leaf is not more polluting, even though it's approaching 12 years old.
Yeah.
It could live for 30 years and it would not be more polluting because it's not putting out gases.
Just this morning, we were just driving around town and there was like a pretty new looking, GM SUV. Like it only looked like it was 5 or 6 years old, but there was way too much exhaust coming out of the tailpipe.
Yeah,
so,
I know. This is like the smoking thing that we talk about. It's becoming unacceptable now to breathe somebody else's emissions.
Yeah.
And, I had that the other day and I've had it quite a bit recently. And I have to turn on the air recirculate button. By then it's too late and you're breathing this. I'm very conscious about air quality now because of our project. Yep. And I don't want to be breathing that if I don't have to. And then, some people just don't have their car tuned up, which is understandable. I mean, I've been in that situation, but yeah, that's what happens when the cars get older.
No, and being in London, like it reminded me of those days of, when the smoking ban came in. We're old enough to remember when you could smoke in restaurants and you could smoke everywhere.
Yeah, I was telling my kids the other day that you could smoke in planes, domestic flights.
In planes.
And
Absolutely.
International flights all the way into the mid-'80s.
But, back in the 70s and 80s, well, you were just used to it. Like you went to a bar, and you would come home smelling like smoke. Yeah. Your clothes would smell like smoke. But that was just normal. So we all sort of accepted it. But as soon as they banned it, then you realized how obnoxious it was. And anytime then you did encounter it, it was disgusting. And that's kind of what I felt like walking around the streets of London. It wasn't quite there yet, but with the increase in electric vehicles, like you're really starting to probably, the Londoners wouldn't necessarily notice a difference if you're doing it every day, but there was all kinds of electric buses, double-decker electric buses, all kinds of electric cars. I saw a few electric trucks, like delivery trucks.
Right.
And they have that congestion tax now that we've talked about before on the show. Big cities now, if you drive downtown, they read your license plate and they'll send you a bill, and that really cuts down on the traffic. So it just feels like we're just, 2 or 3 years away from walking down the street in London and, you'll be given the driver of the one gas car the stink eye as he goes past you because other than that, it's, it's not that bad. And the air was fabulous. I checked the air quality monitor one day and it was really good. Like the air was particularly refreshing one day. And
even
I checked
during a heat wave? Was it a heat wave during that?
It was like 25 Celsius.
Which is hot for London.
Blue skies and, but the air quality was better than in Regina.
Really? Well,
yeah.
Geez. So I suppose if it gets bad in London, then it's probably because we send our smoke over there.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. That's very interesting. So I was reading something the other day. I'm not sure if if this made it into the lightning round or not, but there was very good news about the electrification of vehicles in the UK, including a doubling of the number of delivery vehicles that have gone electric. And they imply that happened in just 1 year.
Wow.
That's all you have?
That's it.
That's all your story? Are you happy? You seem refreshed and jovial, I will say.
Well, I'm starting to get a bit tired. Like I've been up since about 2 a.m. because I'm still on London time, which is like 7 hours difference. So
how long did it take you to get acquainted once you got to London?
Yeah, I mean, same kind of thing. It's a couple of days. I think it's worse coming back, but I feel okay, but I've been awake since 2 a.m.
All right. I don't know when you're napping. Have you multiple naps a day? What's going on with your napping situation?
Well, you don't want to nap too much because you want to, save your sleep for the evening.
Okay. Well, I've dug out my e-bike and I realized I haven't used it in a couple of years. And that means my health was in poor condition and I'm trying to get back on my bike and get my nether regions leathered up down there so they could be used to being on a bike again.
Yeah.
And I ordered some fat bike shorts from Temu. They make them bigger than everyone else makes them in China, I guess, for us, just North America. So I'm going to try those out. But I noticed my e-bike charger, it does turn off when the battery's charged. We've talked about this before, and I thought it's something you have to unplug. Well, the one I got, this is the NMC, and you can see the review of that on our YouTube page. Or is it NCM? It's NCM. It's a NCM that I got just as the pandemic was kicking off, and I knew that I would probably want something to do during the pandemic, and I got an e-bike, and then they became scarce, sure enough, shortly after that. So, I got it for around $1,000, which was a pretty good deal at the time, I thought, and I thought it's a very good bike, and I've upgraded some of the components, but it is nice to go out there, and on our Patreon show, I'll show off some of the things that I've bought for that bike that's coming up before our next regular episode. Our Patreon episode is out there. And I finally got the pool open, Brian. It was July 15th last year, which is a nightmare because once the ice melts in the pool at the end of, let's say, April, you got to start taking care of it or it'll become a mosquito pond and a filth pool. And you got to circulate the water, which takes electricity, a lot of electricity every day.
Yep.
And you've got to treat the water with chemicals, which aren't cheap. So I've been having a nightmare with that because it hasn't been warm enough for me to go into the pool and scrape the algae off from the winter, which you got to do. You got to get it off the surface and into the water and then kill it when it's in the water. Yeah,
and you need the pump to circulate the water, but you have these thermal solar panels, so you don't need electricity to heat the pool.
Right, which is very nice. I have a short video of my yard and the adjacent pipeline on our Patreon page for anyone to go have a look. And then Jonathan, one of our Patreon supporters, he works for a pool app / website, and he had this to say. He says, just a side note, disclosing that I developed the Pool Math app in partnership with those folks. But Trouble-Free Pool is the site you want to help figure out managing your pool chemicals and algae situation. Don't let the pool store inaccurately test your water and oversell you chemicals and solutions you don't need. I never go to the pool store. I feel like I'm going into a Porsche dealership when I go to the pool store. It's not for poor people. It's for the wealthy who have a pool boy come by once a week. And
that's what they do. They send the pool boy over to the pool store.
Yes, they do. Well, the pool boy from the store comes and cleans your pool for you and does things. And I'm not that guy. I'm obviously very different. And even as an above ground pool owner, I stretch my limits larger than the pool staff care for me to do, but he says that, and I don't ever let them test my water. I've never done it actually because I thought that they'll want to sell me their chemicals, which are incredibly expensive, way more expensive there than they are at box stores, but maybe better. I don't know. So he says, follow the pool school guides and the TFP method. Use the app and send me a message with their user ID, and I'm happy to gift a lifetime subscription to the app. And he says that goes for any other of your Patreons too. So if you're a Patreon member of our thing, you can message Jonathan and he'll give you a lifetime membership to that app if you are a pool person. So I did that and he gifted me the subscription. And you can check out his comments on Patreon. And I've made progress. But the long story short is I've switched from they have these test strips, which are incredibly hard to read because they're so subtle.
Right.
The difference between good and bad is so I'm looking at them, then I'm putting another strip in. And so, but the method that I've always disdained, which I started with, which is you put a little vial, you get this special vial with colors on it. You put drops of liquid into it, colored liquid, shake it around and it turns a color. Well, it's a lot easier to tell what is what there. So I balanced my pH better. And as soon as I did that, the pool started to improve. And then days and days around the clock of filtering finally got that stuff out. And I've been in there a couple of times and I've got these speakers, these Bose speakers that I paid about $110 for each. And they link up, they're Bluetooth speakers, but they link up a stereo and they attach to my pool wall. I just love it. I don't know what it is.
Amazing.
I don't want to be this party guy, so I keep it low, but I just love having audio with it. Just enhances the experience.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just love that. So I keep it at a low volume so it doesn't hurt the neighbors. Jamie also said on Patreon, thanks for the video of your yard. This provides some context to the discussion in the episodes that you talk about that stuff. So I have the solar panels and the pool and the pipeline all in there. I'm going to make little videos like that from time to time.
Yeah, I think people will be interested to get a sense of it because you've talked about that pipeline in the back, of your house for many times, and it's nice to actually see what it looks like. All right, from Electrek, Amish and e-bikes. Across many parts of Amish country, including Iowa, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, Amish people, Amish communities are starting to embrace e-bikes. Now, this is not every community. Each community is responsible for establishing and enforcing its own standards as it sees fit for its culture, but many of these rules tend to revolve around a common theme of not being dependent on the outside world. So depending on what your Amish community decides, e-bikes can be a good solution and better than, say, horses, because the Amish, of course, they tend to shy away from technology and they want to stay independent. They don't want to rely on things like the power grid, but that means that many of these Amish communities have been embracing solar panels and batteries and essentially their own power grids. And so e-bikes can work quite well into this solution. And so if you've got to ride a few miles into town, guess what? An e-bike is way easier than a horse. It's a much different situation. And
horses are expensive these days too, and you have to take care of them. There's veterinary costs, which are probably from the outside world as well.
Yeah.
But this is what's different than a motorcycle? Like why is this slip by the customs?
Well, you can't charge up a gas-powered motorcycle with your own solar panels. I would guess that's the difference.
That's true.
So it's about self-reliance. So this story originally started in the Iowa Capital Dispatch, and they talked about the local Amish people opting for electric bikes as an alternative to push scooters or pedal bicycles, which is a thing they also use a lot. And some Amish communities are building electric bicycles and tricycles in their own workshops, and they're known for that too, a lot building their own stuff. There are e-bike shops that are adjacent to or part of Amish communities that have started to cater to the demand from Amish communities. David Mullett, a member of the Old Order Amish Church and owner of E-Bikes of Holmes County, a popular bike shop in a heavily Amish area of Ohio, explained that e-bikes are simply faster and easier than horses. It's a lot quicker to jump on your bike and go into town than it is to bring your horse into the barn, harness it to a buggy, and go. And it's a lot quicker, and you travel faster as well. So, and the other thing it mentions is that some Amish do allow their community to ride in cars, but it tends to be, it's not cars that you own. So if there's some specific need they have, they will often, hire a car and hire a driver, which can be expensive. So again, e-bikes can kind of fill in for that.
E-bikes also don't poop.
Yeah.
So that's the situation you got to deal with a horse.
I'm assuming, if you're riding your horse into town, you're going to have to scoop after it. But
unless you put one of those little baskets at the back. I don't know.
Horse diaper, we could call it, perhaps.
Sure. Well, there's probably a name for it, but I think police horses sometimes have those. But I've also been on bike paths in the city here. Horse poop.
Yep.
Not something you want to have to avoid at the last second. There's nobody riding horses to my knowledge, so they must be police horses from time to time. And
Yes.
do the police have horses here?
Well, we are the home of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police here in our city of Regina. So yes, horses are occasionally around.
Well, that was near that academy where they teach the National Police Force.
The RCMP Academy, that's right. The bike path goes right past the RCMP Academy.
Maybe they were police horses in training and they just left their poop.
Yeah. But anyway, I thought that was super interesting. I love the idea of, self-reliance that the e-bikes can do. And of course, if you charge them from your own solar panels, then you're not relying on, the outside power grid to do all that for you. I think it's great.
All right. Well, I think that's great too. But you can also get kits, right? You can upgrade a bicycle.
Yep.
And you can buy your own kit to make an e-bike. So if they already have bicycles, maybe their shops are putting together something. Although I think it's better to buy an e-bike because the batteries sometimes are integrated into the frame now. The frames are a bit stronger. Unfortunately, that makes for a heavier bike overall usually.
Yeah. But that's the nice thing about bikes. Yeah, it's one of those things like PC computers. Like you can buy all the parts for a bike off the shelf and build them yourself if that's a thing you're into.
Yesterday, I saw a young man going down one of the main streets in a scooter, like a stand-on scooter, and he was going at car speed, like 50 kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
And he had a pretty good helmet on. It wasn't a bike helmet. It was a hard motorcycle or motocross helmet. But he was dressed in black, and I thought, his days are numbered. Because you can get ones that go highway speed. And I've seen those reviewed on electric. It's the reviewer doesn't even want to get up that fast.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't. I mean, when you hit a pebble, you're dead.
Yeah.
You're a goner. Your skin is behind you. It's not good.
No.
Why it would go that fast?
And there were tons of those kinds of scooters in London as well. They weren't maybe going...
Was there?
Weren't maybe going traffic speed, but no, there was lots of those. And there was lots of electric bikes and lots of rental ones. Like there's like a lot of larger cities have those rental electric bikes that you can pick up from a kiosk and take anywhere. There was tons and tons of those.
You didn't consider that too dangerous?
I did consider it, but no, it'd be a bit too confusing in the traffic, and they drive on the wrong side of the road, which is always a recipe for disaster.
You're standing by that.
Yeah. I did notice the lines are really well painted on the road because that's a thing we complain about here. They don't paint the road lines often enough. So you're often driving down a street with no lane markings at all and whatever. But the ones in London, not only are they super clear and well painted on, but they often will have one that says, look left with an arrow to remind people to look, the other way when crossing the road, because there'd be a lot of people in London that aren't used to that.
When I was riding my e-bike again, this is what I did when I got the e-bike. It has a throttle on it, right?
Yeah.
A thumb throttle. So it gives you full blast or nothing. And then it has 6 different power levels, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 0. 0 is terrible because the bike is so heavy and inefficient that it just seems like painful. But I was riding with my partner and she's got a normal bike. So I was trying to keep it with her. But what I did when I got the bike, Brian, is I put it on like the highest level, and I put it on the highest gear. It's like a 21 speed bike or something like that. So I put it on the hardest gear to pedal.
Yep.
And I just left it there.
Yeah.
And I just went crazy, like as fast as you can. It goes up to 32 kilometers an hour. Maybe it's the battery deteriorating, but it's closer to 30 now.
Yep.
Maybe it's my weight, but it's around 30 often now. And I just zoomed around and that was that. But I can't do that when I'm riding with somebody who has a normal bike and who's just getting off on her first, ride of the season. So I finally changed it so that I would have a low speed, like level 1 or 2, and that I had to match the gear to have an easy gear.
Right.
Because otherwise, when you're pedaling, it just goes really hard. And for some reason, I was just doing that and it was painful. I didn't change the gears. And I'm an avid gear changer, Brian, in my cycling days. I've always upgraded my drivetrains on my bikes to good ones.
Yep.
So I found the right gear ratio basically on the pedaling to match the little bit of speed, and it just seemed fairly normal. But it's kind of tragic that that's the first time I did that. But yeah, I'm still getting used to my e-bike is the long story short. It's been 5 years. So
yeah,
exactly 5 years.
And we haven't mentioned it for a while. I have a Ride One Up e-bike, and it only has one gear, which I was nervous about at first, but now I love it. Like and it's a belt instead of a chain. It's like a carbon fiber belt. I can't remember what they're made of. So, very low maintenance. And the thing about changing gears on a bike is then, after a while, you always have to do some adjustments to make sure that, the gear changer still works right. But yeah, I love not having a chain. I love not having any gears. And it just has a 0 to 5 control, which absolutely does everything. It's great.
A few nights ago, we've been having weather where the winds calm down at night.
Yeah.
And that's bad for James because the wind sometimes when it's variable, it will come from the refinery for a time. And I'm sleeping. And in the summer and spring and fall, I've got a fan in my window because I love fresh air. I love having the same air as outdoors if it's fresh and also cool because I'm upstairs and we try not to use air conditioning. So whenever possible, because it does get fairly cool at night. And the air, I have it coming in, I love it. But sometimes I wake up and I'm smelling refinery.
Yeah.
And I know that that's bad because of the book project. They outlaid everything that's in that air or can be in that air. So 4 nights in a row, Brian, this happened. 4 nights in a row.
Wow.
One night, my partner goes to bed later than I do, and she came up and said, "Oh, the refinery stinks horribly. We got to close all the windows." And sure enough, my room.
Yep.
And I was thinking about, a wind direction instrument that would be smart that I could integrate into my smart home and turn off a smart plug. And somebody on our Patreon page, our Discord service said that I think that's possible. And I said, but don't worry about it. And I came up with another solution. And that solution is this. If you're watching on video, this is the Amazon Alexa air quality monitor for indoor use.
Oh, wow.
And it is small, like you can see that it's, have my hand up next to it. It's $90, but right now is Prime Days. And if you want to get one, it's 30% off. So it's only $60 Canadian. And that would be less in America. That would probably be down to $50. So that would be something that you could consider. But it does VOCs, where the outdoor monitors don't really pick up the VOCs.
Right.
This one does carbon monoxide, VOCs, and particulate matter 1 and 15, I think, parts per million. So I can set a routine, they call them on Amazon Alexa.
Yeah.
Google does the same thing. By the way, IKEA makes a similar one that's better, but I can't integrate the IKEA one into my smart home to do what I want to do. So I can set a level in my app that if the VOCs get to this level, the fan turns off.
Wow.
And that's fantastic. And I'm still playing with it. I've only had it for a week or two. I'm still trying to get, where should I put it? What level of VOC should I go for?
Yeah.
And, because I don't want it to have the set off by cooking or something like that. By the way, the first day we got it, my wife made grilled cheese sandwiches on a, sort of margarine on a electric grill.
Yeah.
The VOCs were very bad.
Oh, no.
All through the house. And I also have it so that it sets out, because we have a number of Alexa units, smart speakers, to say air quality has deteriorated. I could make it do whatever I want. I could have it send me a text. I could close the drapes. I can do all kinds of things. And here's a kicker too. This here thing is one of those power things that I got with my cell phone that Costco was clearing out that I didn't want to take.
Yeah.
Well, it runs one of these for over 2 days.
Okay.
Off this power bank. And so I can take this anywhere. And for some reason, Brian, it has a tripod mount.
Okay.
Like a screw hole for a tripod. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It doesn't mention that anywhere in the instructions or anywhere, but that's an interesting thing. Now, I can take this anywhere I want.
Yeah.
I can go out if the refinery stinks into my backyard.
Yeah.
And see what the VOs. It just gives me an index of 1 to 100. It doesn't tell me anything detailed, but I know when it's bad.
Yeah.
Okay. So I can't use this in court, but I can tell you that it's bad.
Yeah.
And then I can go downwind by a couple of kilometers and say, okay, is it bad there? I can go in my electric car with no emissions to worry about and stick it there and say, okay, is it bad there? If it's coming from an unusual direction, I can go all the way down to your house and say, okay, is it bad outside of Brian's house?
Yeah.
Is it making it down here anywhere? I can drive around and try different things out. and find the VOCs. So it's not the most accurate thing. No outdoor air quality monitor tracks VOCs, volatile organic compounds.
Right.
Those are the bad things that smell like turpentine sometimes from the refinery and can cause cancer and cause neurological disorders and other things that are bad. And, you know, I've discovered that the government air quality monitors don't pick this crap up.
Yeah.
So as far as they're concerned, no matter what, the air quality is not what you think. Do not trust government air quality monitors. They are not doing everything when you have an industry like this in your city. So I don't know what to do about that, but, you know, often the government air quality monitor, and I don't know where it is. It's implied that maybe it's south of the city.
Yeah.
And they do sampling, but they collect air samples and send them to a lab. That's expensive.
Yeah.
And there are instruments. I'm sure the refinery has really expensive $3,000 instruments that will do that, but they're just at the fence line. They're just where it's not even going to be affected by, because the smoke is going to go over the fence line and into the community, ostensibly. So, yeah, this is a big deal now. I felt like I had to do it for my own safety. And also the fact that I can carry it around, it will expand our air quality project and become, you know, more interesting. So 4 nights in a row this happened and it was bad. And I couldn't get this thing fast enough. Like I ordered it on night 2.
Okay, let's get back to the grilled cheese sandwiches.
Okay.
I'm concerned about that because grilled cheese sandwiches are delicious. But I guess the difference is with the pollution from the refinery, you're not getting anything delicious out of it. So
no,
with the grilled cheese sandwich, sure, it may have set off your alarm, but at least you get something delicious out of it.
Yeah, that's another interesting fact that I'm going to be exploring is household, because we have mold in our house at some places. I have to fix the shower and redo the whole shower one of these days.
Yeah.
It's been put off, and so I'm going to take it into different rooms and different cooking. And of course, gas cooking gives off VOCs from the gas, from the leaking of the gas, and I could take this to somebody's home who has a gas outlet and just, you know, like your radon detector, have 5 minutes, have a result. So that's very interesting. Yeah. And you can buy portable detectors, and maybe one day I'll go that route as well. Like it's a handheld device that you can do. I don't know how accurate they are.
Yeah.
They're a lot cheaper if you order them from China. But yeah, that's really worth it. And like I said, this thing, if you are interested for your indoor air quality, and this is what these are for, and IKEA makes a cheap one too that's more accurate, like I said, although I don't think they let you order it on the internet. You have to go to a store. We don't have an IKEA here.
Yeah, it's sometimes a pain to buy stuff from IKEA. I have driven to Winnipeg just to buy something from IKEA, but I think my days of doing that are over.
Okay.
But I wanted to talk about mold for a second, because just as we were setting up to record, there was some sawing going on. There's more renos going on in my house. But it's because of mold. We've had these leaking problems in our roof that we've been trying to solve for years. So we've had to tear apart our kitchen again because there were more leaks. And
You're kidding.
In the walls.
From the roof.
It's mostly in the walls. It's a long story, but it mostly seems to be from ice damming, where you get snow on the roof in the winter. It freezes and melts and freezes and melts and freezes and melts, and it gets itself under the shingles. And we've thought many times that we have solved this problem, but it turns out we had not. And it's just a wrong design for this kind of climate. It's a low slope roof that faces south. And I think it was just always doomed to have this problem. But the problem is worse now because of climate change, because we get more warm days in the winter. But yeah, while we were in London, our whole kitchen was torn apart. And we had to rip the walls apart again because water had gotten in and it was turning into black mold. And you don't want black mold in your house. It's one of those toxic, noxious things, which maybe your monitor can detect. But we weren't feeling any ill effects or anything. But once we realized water was getting in, we had to open up the wall and look at it. And it's, I don't know. We think we're going to solve the problem finally this time, but who knows?
How though? Like how, you're cleaning up the wall, the mold in the wall, but you have to go back to the roof, don't you, to fix it?
I mean, in retrospect, the last time we got the roof done, we probably should have gone with metal roofing. It's not foolproof, apparently, in terms of that kind of leak, but metal roof would have been probably the way to go. I don't really like the way it looks, so we thought, we're doing the spray foam, that'll be enough. Anyway, we're just going to do heat tape, electrical heating on the roof. So there's going to be a permanent switch for it. And basically, as soon as it snows, we'll just turn on the switch and the electric cables will just melt all the snow in the trouble area.
Why don't you just expand that to your solar panels?
I've thought about that many times. I would love to have heated solar panels, but I don't know of anybody who's done that. Maybe I'm going to have to do some more internet research. How do you heat your solar panels? Because it would be lovely to get those cleared and get more power in the winter.
So you have a low slope roof affects those too, because they will get snow and sort of semi-ice or ice, and then they don't melt for a long time.
Yeah, you get snow on your panels as well, but it can tend to blow off or melt off on a sunny day. But no, it just piles up. It's too deep. The sun is not warm enough. So this particular winter, we had a lot of snow, and I basically had zero power production for the longest time, I think, several months over the winter. Usually I get a little bit, but this year, it was nothing.
Yeah, and this is the year that we had, first time in 7 years that I've had the panels, that we've had a large chunk of wet snow. We usually get dry snow here. Usually snows when it's cold, so it's a fine powder, like you kind of want to ski on.
Yeah.
But this was wet and heavy, and it all came down and crushed my patio table.
Right, yeah.
So I've been working on that, but it's not the same table as it was before. And since I bought that tables are a lot more expensive for your patio than they were when I bought it. They're like 3 times as much for whatever reason, like so many other things.
All right, so let's move on to another story from the UK. This one is from The Guardian. We love talking about balcony solar here on the show. We know that it's very big in Germany. They have 1.5 million apartments in Germany that have balcony solar panels that we've talked about many times on the show. Balkenkraftwerk is what they call it, balcony power plant. And so this is a super common thing in Germany, Italy, France, the Netherlands. But there's a story here from The Guardian that they are currently studying it for use in the UK. And I know from being there just now that they're, everyone's got the urge to electrify. It's definitely a movement there. But they have a different electrical system. Every country tends to have slightly different power requirements. We know there's different plugs in different countries, but the UK's got its own deal. And so currently, in terms of the safety regulations, you need basically an electrician. There's no such thing as a plug and play solar system in the UK. Everything like that has to go through, a certified electrician. So they're going to study it basically to see if these will work. So a typical system like this would be, say, 800 watts, like 2 solar panels, 800 watts. And in Germany, you can take a system like that and just plug it into the wall and boom, you're done. The sun generates electricity. It just puts it back into your existing plug, which is absolutely amazing. So they're going to study it in the UK. They have a plan to triple their solar capacity by 2030. So this is part of that. If they can unlock that, kind of balcony solar. And we've talked about it many times, like, well, how big a thing could that be? Well, 1.5 million of them in Germany. Like, this is a potentially a huge thing. These systems cost about, say £2,000 or maybe 3,000 US, 4,000 Canadian, something like that. And, really you're just paying that money for the system rather than paying it to the utility. And I think a lot of people understand that. It's like, well, I might as well generate the power myself, do some good. And, that's £2,000 that you're just paying to a supplier rather than paying to a grid. In the end, you will come out ahead as well once that, £2,000 is paid off, and then you're just getting free juice.
And I think that, I don't think they're all that expensive. We've covered it before in the show. You can have smaller, cheaper, Chinese imported systems, and they're paying for themselves. This is a big thing. They're paying for themselves in a year and a half, 2 years, 3 years at most.
Yep.
And then boom, free electricity after that. So it's kind of, if you can swing it, or even if you can finance it, if there's a government program for financing it. It's one of the big surprises in the last couple of years from our show is how big this is becoming. It's big in China.
Yeah.
It's big in Germany. It's big in some other European countries, and it's starting to expand because these systems are so cheap. And because I know a lot of people who live in apartments would love to have a participation in this. So one way is like a community solar project, but why not take matters into your own hands and put these on your balcony if you can?
And obviously you're not going to generate all of your power from that, but you don't typically generate all the power from your house system either. Like, it's actually quite difficult to have enough space to put up enough solar panels to cover all of your needs. You'd have to have generally a large rural property, to actually do that. So very few people are covering all of their power needs with their home solar system. So yeah, why not a couple of solar panels on your balcony? I remember you doing the math for your, aging Nissan Leaf, and you basically bought it because you knew it would pay for itself. Like the gas savings, get rid of the gas car, and what you're saving on gas, paid for your old $10,000 Nissan Leaf.
Yeah, was using an Acura SUV, an old one that I used for towing the camper.
Yeah.
So we used that as our city car for shorter trips, and I replaced that because it used premium gas.
Yeah.
With the Leaf, and it would pay for itself in 5 years. But then gas prices took off, and it paid for itself even faster.
Yeah.
Then, because electricity prices didn't take off, and of course I have the solar on my roof. So Brian, let's go to the Horn of Africa. This is an example of weird countries taking advantage of renewable energies that you don't normally think of. And this one is a really good example, I think, because it is a really dysfunctional country. Like it has zero tourism because it's too dangerous to go there.
Yeah.
But that hasn't stopped them from embracing renewables for the same reasons that everyone else does. It's for energy security. It's for economic reasons. The share of electricity generation having the highest wind and solar is Djibouti. Djibouti. And that's after Denmark. Second only Denmark.
Wow.
So, they've really... And it's almost all wind at this point, but they're working on solar too. So Djibouti is number 2, and it gets 2/3 or more of its electricity from wind, and those numbers are much higher than the global average, which is only 15% typically, which is up from 13% in 2023. Only 65% of people in Djibouti have electricity access. So a third of people do not have any electricity access at all. And some of them that don't have access to the grid. 10 years ago, this is an article in Clean Technica about Djibouti, because I had trouble finding information on Djibouti.
Yeah.
It's incredibly, like everything in the world has lots of information, but few YouTubers have gone there. And if they have, they've had their cameras seized. You can't even film in the freaking streets.
Right.
This is 10 years ago, Clean Technica had this. A new IRENA report provides a 5-year plan for using Djibouti's abundant renewable energy sources to solve the nation's serious concerns regarding rising energy demand, limited energy security, and rampant unemployment. Astonishingly, this report claims that by 2020, 100% of Djibouti's energy demand can be met through solar. And yet they've not done that. They've gone with wind, which is more expensive, but more around the clock. From the earliest records of ancient Egypt, Djibouti has sat at the head of a prominent piece of real estate, strategically situated on the busiest shipping lanes in the world. The land of Djibouti is a modern commercial hub on the Horn of Africa, controlling access to both the Red Sea and the Indian Ocean. Once known as Punt, the region we now know as Djibouti, Ethiopia, and Somalia, was a source of exotic mystery to the earliest Egyptians, recorded in the ancient hieroglyphs as the land of God. Today, Djibouti is a straining nation heavily dependent on imported fossil fuels and power, with around 50% of its population having no access to the national grid. So a third don't have any electricity, and only half have that grid electricity. And a rampant national unemployment rate of 60%. Remember, this is 10 years ago. It wasn't always that way, however. Djibouti, sitting at the heart of an empire with rays of power emanating in all directions, was once the geographic location through which all manner of riches, power, and glory passed. Now, flash forward to today, Brian. They have one private wind project financed by the World Bank. In Djibouti, over 14,005 households have been connected, benefiting approximately 98,000 individual people, including 42,000 women and girls, and contributing to 16% increase in total household connections nationwide because of this wind project that was financed by the World Bank and built privately. This is what the World Bank write-up about it says. For Aika, a mother of 7 in Balabala, one of Djibouti's largest slums, electricity was once a distant dream. Like many others, her family relied on unsafe kerosene lamps and unreliable battery-powered flashlights. The lack of electricity affected every aspect of their lives, from her children's education to the care of her son with special needs. Today, her home is a testament to the transformative power for the World Bank's project. Her children can now study comfortably at home, and fans provide much-needed relief from the sweltering heat. It's made such a difference for us, she says. Now my children can focus on their studies, and we don't have to worry about the heat as much. Fetching water down there was once a daily struggle, and thanks to renewable energy, Brian, this challenge has been transformed, improving lives significantly. We see this a lot in different places in Africa where the transportation of water is all-consuming.
Yeah.
And it's usually the women and girls who do it. So Mohammed, a local resident, said women and children used to embark on a 4-hour journey to fetch water from a distant well and bring it home. They started the journey as early as 3 a.m. to be one of the first arrivals and avoid the crowding at the well. In 2023, several villages were transformed by the installation of solar-powered water pumping systems. The system relays water through multiple tanks at increasing altitudes, ensuring clean water reaches households across remote mountain villages. Women and children no longer have to walk long distances at 3 a.m. to bring water. But the country is very dangerous. I looked at the travel advisor that the government of Canada has, and it said there could be unexploded landmines in border areas. There's terrorism. There's a threat of terrorism all the time. Terrorist attacks could occur anywhere. Targets include military bases, government buildings, including police stations, schools, for some reason, including universities, places of worship, airports, and other transportation hubs and networks. So public areas such as tourist attractions, restaurants, bars, coffee shops, shopping centers, markets, hotels, and other sites frequented by foreigners and cultural venues. Always be aware of your surroundings. So can't get into the reasons of that. It's complex, but that's a country that's very dysfunctional and very poverty infested as well. We've talked about poverty places, but this is very dysfunctional.
Yeah, but I guess clean energy could help in the long run, it sounds like.
Yes, it could. We'll have to see how that works out.
All right, so we have another clean energy project being backed by Bill Gates. This seems to come up every once in a while. Bill Gates is investing in different clean energy solutions. So this story is from Electrek. It's Heirloom, Breakthrough Energy Ventures Heirloom. Breakthrough Energy Ventures is Bill Gates's firm, and they're backing Heirloom, which has built a better mousetrap. I'm always fascinated by these stories of people trying to design a better wind turbine because it's always seems like somebody thinks they have a better idea for it, but the advances tend to be incremental and very slow. But this is a weird one that you'd kind of have to Google it to really see what I'm talking about. But yeah, if you want to Google the Heirloom wind turbine and, look for a video because, it's difficult to describe in audio terms, but the whole thing is shaped like a rectangle. And instead of having just a single post with one, 3 blades on it, it's like shaped like a racetrack, shaped like a hockey rink. And there's a bunch of rectangular fins on this thing, and they're all connected by a cable. And so when the wind blows, the whole thing rotates in this rectangular shape. And anyway, the point of it seems to be that if it works, it'll be cheaper. Wind turbines are quite expensive to make, but this can be done with a lot of off-the-shelf parts. You need a bunch of posts to build the rectangular part. And then, it's like a cable and other rectangular parts. So the cost could be potentially half the cost per kilowatt hour of, say, a traditional wind turbine. We've talked about how, difficult it is to build those wind turbines. They have these incredibly insane, massive factories because the things are so large, like each blade. We've both seen them transported on trucks, and you basically have 2 semi-trailers connected by the blade of one of these turbines, and it's quite interesting to watch them try and drive around corners and so forth. But yeah, this would theoretically be easier and cheaper to build with, kind of off-the-shelf parts.
I'm struck by how not high it seems. I can't get any information on how
it's
high
maybe
it is.
it's something like 50 or 60 feet high, something like that. Each of these blades is maybe something like 30 feet. But
so there's no really large parts that you would have sometimes even manufacture close to the site On the case of offshore, just because it's so hard to transport over roads, there's a limit.
Yeah.
So that's quite fascinating.
But it's not proven. And so what, Bill Gates is backing basically a test project. So they're going to build a test project. They haven't built a full-sized one yet. So this is still early stages. And who knows if it's going to work. But, if it's cheaper, why not?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to hold over our letters this week because we're running long. I'm going to read them at the beginning of our Patreon show that's coming up before the next episode. You get the first 10 minutes free on our Patreon page if you want to go listen to that. We've got some interesting things going on there and some suggestions from our listeners. If you want to contact us, please do. We love to hear from you. cleanenergyshow@gmail.com is our email, and speakpipe.com/cleanenergyshow is how you can leave us an online voicemail. Join our Patreon today as a paying member and get access to our exclusive Patreon episodes. You can now support us for as little as $1 a month. Some of our perks are ad-free episodes, exclusive access to our Discord server for the Clean Energy Show, and my daughter, the administrator, the Discord expert. And I'm still catching up. It's going to take me years, Brian. I'll warn our listeners right now.
Yeah.
It could be years before I really understand Patreon or understand the Discord. I haven't had time to use it either. The show takes up a lot of my time, and adding more time on Discord will be difficult for me, but we'll see how that goes, especially as it gets colder in the winter. So she asked Landon, one of our huge donors to the Air Quality Project, if his company, Weed, is locally owned, and he replied, "We certainly are local. We are family owned and operated, and I live just outside of Lumsden. I am a data nerd too and have a weather station, so I was excited to support the project." And also Richard posted his Wordle score, which was only 4 out of 6. Not that impressive, Richard. Not that impressive.
I got the Wordle in one time.
Did you?
Yeah.
I pretended to. I faked it. So, yeah, we've got a bonus episode coming up shortly, discounts at our merch store, and early access to our episodes and behind-the-scenes materials that are sometimes not completely public, but a lot of stuff are. And you get thank you credits on our video podcast and shout-outs on our audio podcast. So we'll give you some thank you shout-outs later this month. But thank you all who support the show. We were actually just talking about it before we recorded. It's going quite well, and we're really impressed with how well it's going. I didn't expect it to go as well as it is, because we put out our show and we don't know who's out there, but now we're really hearing back from people who are on our Patreon page and a Discord server, and it's really becoming a community. So thank you to all. And coming up next is the lightning round. Time for the lightning round.
The lightning round is a fast-paced look at the latest headlines in climate, clean energy, and transportation.
The European heatwave has caused 2 nuclear sites that use water from rivers to shut down. This happened a couple years ago, Brian. We talked about it on the show. This is in France and Switzerland. Both plants are designed to keep the reactors at safe temperatures by cooling them with river water, which is then pumped back out into the river after it cools the plant and at higher temperatures. But the water can only get so hot in the river before you start destroying ecosystems.
Yeah.
So regulations of both countries require operators to reduce energy production when the rivers get too hot in order to protect downstream environments. This happened at the Switzerland plant in 2022, but they did not shut it down to protect the environment because they couldn't spread the electricity. This time they can.
Wow.
In fact, the recent heat wave in Europe may have impacted up to 15% of France's nuclear capacity, as 17 out of 18 French nuclear facilities experienced capacity reduction. If you're building a nuclear reactor these days with the warming planet, maybe just keep it at the ocean. This is a headline from the London Daily News. Call to drop Range Rover sponsorship of Wimbledon as SUVs are 82% more likely to kill children.
Wow.
And yet, I was helping my son because his car went kaput, and he wants to drive a car, unlike most people. He wants to drive a fuel-efficient car. I'm having trouble finding cars for the boy.
Right, yeah.
Everyone's driving an SUV. Like, you want an SUV? No problem. You want a pickup truck? No problem. You want a car? There's not that many of them out there, This is from PV Magazine. The world's largest 1 megawatt, 100 megawatt hour sand battery is commissioned into operation in Finland. And yeah, that's a industrial scale system that delivers 1 megawatt of thermal power and 100 megawatt hours of storage capacity, covering up to a month's summer heat demand and nearly a week's winter demand for the local district heating network. It's like this big cylinder that's, 150 feet high, 100 feet high, full of hot sand, presumably.
So you just heat up the sand, and then it stays hot for a while.
Solar and wind accounted for almost 96% of new U.S. electrical generating capacity that was added in the first third of 2025.
96.
So whenever they built more electricity to go into the grid in the United States, 96% of it was wind and solar. And yet, to hear from Congress, you would think that it was a bad thing, that it's stupid, and nobody wants to do it. We talked about congestion pricing in New York City, as we were talking about in London as well. Well, they started in New York City at the very beginning of this year. It came into effect in early January. It applies to most motor vehicular traffic using the central business district area of Manhattan South. They electronically charge you a toll for entering the congested part of the city. It's also meant to cut down on pollution. Well, it's working very well. And, Trump tried to kill that too. $500 million in revenue in 6 months. That's $500 million in revenue that will go to public transportation. Rush hour delays at the Holland Tunnel are down 65%. And subway ridership is up 7%. Bus ridership is up 12%. There's lots of other stats going on there. And finally this week,
tonight, the desperate search and recovery for survivors in Central Texas. By air, foot, and water going through the mangled wreckage left in the wake of that fatal flash flood.
We remain hopeful every foot, every mile, every bend of the river.
Oh my God! But the clock is ticking. Search efforts entering their fourth day after torrential rain sent the Guadalupe River surging, turning the holiday weekend into a trail of horror.
So torrential rains associated with a deadly flood, a flash flood that claimed over 100 lives. I don't know if you saw any of this in the UK, but it was quite startling to see that river rise something like 26 feet in an hour or something like that on American Independence Day, July 4th. It was a holiday. Kids were camping. A lot of kids were lost in that. And now they are saying it is intensified by human-made climate change. A new study has concluded. Climameter found that similar meteorological conditions in Texas, specifically in the hill country between San Antonio and Austin, are now up to 2 millimeters of precipitation a day per day wetter than they used to be, and at 1.5 degrees Celsius warmer than they were in the past. The disaster unfolded rapidly on Friday as exceptional downpours in Texas Hill Country increased the water level of the Guadalupe River by 26 feet, 8 meters within 45 minutes, bursting its banks and destroying everything in its path. And rushing water is a deadly, deadly force. Over 10 inches, or 254 millimeters of rain fell across the region. Is that what we get in a year? I mean, that's, some places is what you get in a year in just a few hours. The study was conducted by Climameter, a rapid framework for understanding extreme weather events in a changing climate, funded by the European Union and the French National Center for Scientific Research. By comparing past and present weather patterns in the region, researchers concluded that natural variability alone cannot explain the catastrophic floods and pointed at climate change as one of the main drivers of the event. Tell that to the state government in Texas. They're not going to listen. But here we are.
All right. And that's our show for this week. You can contact us, cleanenergyshow@gmail.com. We are Clean Energy Pod around social media. That Patreon is patreon.com/cleanenergypod. And thank you so much to all our Patreon members. There's a merch store linked in the show notes. And remember to hit the follow or subscribe button wherever you get your podcasts.
And this is where we give a thank you to all of our Patreon Clean Club members, our Clean Club executive members. Green Bastard, Brent Routley, our Clean Club Plus members, Bob Armstrong, John Heese, Wes S., and Clean Club members Noah Cook, Jonathan Dick, Andy Fessler, Joss Engen, and Sean Innes, Sean Hines, Timo Kallenberger, Peter O'Donnell, Weldon Penner, Roshan Gervais, and Richard W. And all of the members who don't get shout-outs but still contribute a little bit of money every month, those are our supporter level members. Thank you very much. It means the world to us that you are deciding to contribute to us, and that makes our show go forward. Thank you all for supporting climate positive content. We'll see you again at our Patreon podcast.
Yeah, Patreon coming up in a couple of days, and then we'll see you next week.